What we're going to do now is we're going to reattach the crankshaft pulley and then rotate the engine over 2 revolutions, check all the timing marks. If everything's okay, then we're going to remove this crankshaft pulley again using the same way with a special tool and put everything back, and we'll go from there. Okay, so let's put this on here like that. Yeah, we're going to tighten the bolt until the pulley is fully seated. Okay, now we're going to rotate this 2 revolutions. The fuel injectors are out, so you shouldn't feel any binding. If you feel any binding, stop. Check the time marks. Okay, they're still good. Now we gotta remove this pulley, finish the rest of it. Okay, so in the interest of being lazy, I don't feel like going out to rent the crankshaft puller tool right now, so I'm going to do the intake right now and do the crankshaft pulling later. So we're gonna put our gaskets on, the lower intake gaskets. And now we're going to put our intake manifold on, and this intake has been reconditioned. So we're going to put this on. And now we're going to put the bolts in. The longer bolts go in the front, remember? Okay, we're not going to tighten those down yet. We're going to put the fuel injectors in. We'll put some petroleum jelly on each one of the fuel injectors. Just push them in gently. They should go right in with the petroleum jelly. Now we're just going to run all the bolts down by hand, not tighten them yet. Before we forget, let's plug in this coolant temp sensor. And all the fuel injectors. Okay, next we're going to torque these bolts to spec. I did more of an in-depth look at this on my intake manifold gasket replacement on this engine. Basically, you just tighten it gradually in this sequence until you reach 250 inch-pounds. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, next we're going to test these coolant hoses. Got one there and then one over here. Oh, we also have the fuel line right below the coolant hose that I also just connected. Okay, so it was hard to get a shot putting this EGR valve back on. Basically all it was there are 2 bolts on this flange right below the valve. There's one of them, there's one on the other side. And now we have these 2 pipes sticking up, and these got to go into the upper intake manifold when we put it on, which we're going to do next. Alright, I'm going to put the upper intake manifold on. It's got a new gasket. as you're putting it down, don't forget to connect the vacuum line that connects to this actuator right here. Okay, so now I'm going to install the upper intake bolts, or the plenum bolts. And you do this in the same sort of manner. There's a special sequence you have to tighten the bolts in. Again, I covered this in the intake manifold gasket video. I'm going to skip it here for time issues. Let's plug this guy in right here. Okay, we got these two bracket bolts on either side of the intake. Okay, we got this vacuum line right here. And this electrical connector right here. Okay, we got these two connectors on the throttle body. Okay, now we're going to attach the throttle and cruise control cable bracket. Okay, next we have the PCV vacuum line. There we go. Alright, let's connect these cables. There. Much easier when I do that. So another thing that's hard to show you is behind here, under the throttle body, right there, there's a 10mm bolt that, yeah, right there, goes through this bracket and into the intake manifold that you need to tighten. Okay, so I was having little issues with my camera. I don't know if it came through, but I basically just put the covers, timing covers on, and the lower cover, and I also put this AC belt bracket on and just tightened all the bolts. Okay, now I'm going to put the crankshaft pulley back on the same way, by putting it on the shaft, hammering it in a little bit, and then putting the bolt through and pretty much pressing it back on that way. Okay, so we've gotten to the point where it's spinning now. So now I put the screwdriver in like I did before when I loosened it, and we're going to tighten to 85 foot-pounds. There we go. Take the screwdriver out. Okay, now I'm going to attach all these brackets to the front of the intake. Okay, next we have this pulley here. Alright, next okay, install both belts. Underneath and get this other adjuster pulley. Okay, next we have the upper radiator hose. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to refill it with coolant. Okay, next I'm going to put all the intake ductwork. Negative battery cable. You can't forget to put these lower engine mount nuts on. Okay, here's the moment of truth. I haven't finished putting everything on yet, but I just want to start it to see if it runs. It's been a while since I started it. I haven't charged the battery, so the starter might not turn. Let's try it out. I gotta jump it. Okay, so upon starting it up, I quickly found that the base idle was around 3,000 RPM, which you can see in this clip. And the reason that was happening was because I eventually found that during the process the O-rings for the EGR pipes fell off, so there was no sealing going around on the intake. So there was a pretty big vacuum leak, which caused the idle to get a little bit out of control. I also, one thing I should add, is forgot to reconnect the transmission cooler line, and you could see that in this clip. And it's a lot worse than it looks, trust me. There's cat litter all over the floor. Anyway, I believe it to be fixed now, and we're going to start it up. So the O-rings I got were from Pep Boys. They were not the correct part. They are sealing. They are stopping the idle from getting out of control, but they're not sealing completely. I tested this with some throttle body cleaner. So I will need to order the right O-rings, but for now I'm going to put the rest together because it's not out of control. Alright, so we're going to put this cross member on. Now we're going to put the cowl back on and all its screws. I'm just going to skip me putting all these screws in because that's really boring. Okay, I put the screws in. Now we're going to put the windshield wipers back on. This is held in by this one bolt. The radiator fan. I'm gonna just fish that back inside. Okay, I got the radiator back in. I had to remove the upper radiator hose and the transmission cooler line again, but I will make sure to reconnect them this time. Now I'm just gonna thread these bolts in. Okay, I reconnected the transmission cooler line, reconnected the upper radiator hose. Now we're going to connect the radiator fan. Then we're going to put the little retaining clip in. Okay, the last thing is we have this front cross member. We're going to reattach the hood latch. Okay, so this on. Well guys, that's it. All that's left to do now is to bleed the cooling system. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like my Facebook page. I'd really appreciate that.